Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Trent. This is Rams Talk. Thank you for watching. This is the first show I'll do on the 2019 NFL Draft, Rams edition, of course, but I will open this up to talk about the draft in general because there's a lot of moving pieces. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for tuning in. For all the legacy subscribers out there, thanks so much for commenting and everything. It's good to see you guys back in the thread. For all the new subscribers, welcome aboard. Love to hear what you have to say, especially about the draft. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. The draft is approaching, so this is a great place to talk about Rams draft in particular. You can also find me on Twitter at Real LA Rams Talk. Now, before I get into it, a couple of shout outs. One to my buddy Andy. Sorry I didn't get you in the last one, but in addition to a couple other friends, he has hooked me up with many Rams towels, Rams football cards, and he and I actually went to the Kansas City Chiefs Rams Monday Night Football game. So thanks for that as well, Andy. And also, Andy, I know you grew up being a Rams fan. You had a Rams trash can in your room, like an old LA Rams thing there, and then you just jumped ship and went to Eagles. So that's kind of maybe why if I'm a little hesitant getting you a shout out, it's because you just jump ships like that. So, but whatever. Anyways, another shout out to Clash of the Horns. That's another guy who has a YouTube channel and he's on Twitter, but he does he edits a lot of videos together, like legacy Ram players, like highlight reels. One I just saw, which was really good, which was Tyler Higbee and Gerald Everett, like highlight reel of last year, which was really awesome. So give him a sub, give him a follow on Twitter. And last but not least, the reason why I'm able to do this show is because of Downtown Rams and their great work at compiling a list of all of the draft prospects that the Rams have met with, either through the Combine, through the East-West Shrine Game, through the Senior Bowl, through personal visits, and others. That list is invaluable, and I've even told them that much. So a lot of the information that I'm gonna provide in this episode here comes straight from that list. And I'll see players who the Rams have met with in preparation for the draft, leading up to the draft, like that's posted on, like a writer will get it and post it on Twitter, or Draft Rams Wire will have it, or Turf Show Times will have it. But this is like a one-stop shop list. And the reason why this is so important is because the Rams, most teams don't draft players they don't meet with, because it's a job interview and they're not going to hire you without actually interviewing you first. So they have all the tape, but they just always want to get a feel for the players. So the draft, the meetings are invaluable. Now, before I get into all of that, reminder: the draft is April 25th, Thursday 25th through the Sunday the 27th. So we are within a month. It's less than a month away from the draft. And the Rams have 7 picks. They have their first rounder, which is 31st overall. Not a bad place to be. Sony Michel was 31st pick last year by the Patriots. So that's not bad. There's been other good picks at 31. They don't have a second rounder. That's what they gave up in the Marcus Peters trade. They have 2 third rounders, the 94th and 99th pick. One of those is compensatory pick. They have a 4th rounder, which is, I believe, the 133rd pick, 5th rounder, the 169th pick, a 6th rounder, the 203rd pick, and a 7th rounder, which is also compensatory pick, and that's 251. So before I get into the players and everything, I want to talk about what I feel the Rams should do. Now, this is all hypothetical because there's so many, we're still a month away. So much movement's going to happen before the draft, but I feel that the second round is really, really where all of the action is, especially for the Rams. Like the players that they're going to get, because they're essentially taking an early second round pick with their first round pick. It's just like right there. But that's where everything is made in the second round. So if I'm the Rams, this is what I would do. I'd find a trading partner and trade back about 10 slots if I could. 10 or so. In that deal, I would pick up a team's second and third-round pick. So that would give the Rams 3 third-round picks. Then I would hopefully package one of those third-round picks and the fourth-round pick for another second-round pick. Or I'd try to get back in the second round, so I'd have 2 second-round picks. So no first-rounder, 2 second-rounders, ideally 2/3. It's probably a dream scenario, but you never know, because I think the second and third round is really where the Rams are going to make their money in this draft, and there's a lot of good talent. Now, in years past, the roadmap for the Rams have been, at least the last 2 years, they have taken a lot of Senior Bowl players, and all these are all the players that they'd got in the last 2 years, 10 players in the last 2 years that played at the Senior Bowl and that they met with. So you had Cooper Kupp, Gerald Everett, John Johnson, Josh Reynolds, Tanzel Smart, and fullback Rogers. That was 2 years ago. Last year you have Obo, Noteboom, Kaiser, and Jamil Denby. All of those guys, Senior Bowl, and they met with them. So I kind of like to use the Senior Bowl and who they met from the Senior Bowl as an indicator of guys that they'll take. Now, I'm going to mention some guys here today, and I guarantee you the Rams will take some of them. Guaranteed. Just because of how they align. Now, Les Snead kind of likes the Senior Bowl because it gives a player an extra year to develop and learn the craft. So you're getting more of an NFL-ready player. These are also cream of the crop seniors that you're seeing that are in the Senior Bowl. So they kind of come in like Cooper Kupp came in, he was ready to go. A lot of these guys come in and they're kind of ready to go. So I'm going to break it down by position of players that they've met with at the Senior Bowl, but there will be some other guys that they met with at the Combine or brought in for personal visits to match a position of needs. Now, the position of needs in no particular order are going to be defensive line. Losing Ndamukong Suh is going to open up a gap or a hole, depending on what they do with Brockers. If they slide him in, put John Franklin Myers at the end, and kind of go that route. So what the Rams have done with drafting last year and the free agents that they picked up is they've kind of filled a lot of the key gaps. If you buy the fact that Brian Allen's going to be the starting center, Noteboom's going to be the starting guard, Kaiser's going to be the starting inside linebacker, and then you have Matthews and Fowler on the edge, and Weddle at safety. It's like, okay, like all their starters are set. But I don't think Les Snead looks at it as so much of a Brian Allen is locked in at center. If there is a center at 31, if they keep 31, and there's a guy that they like more than Brian Allen, and there's more safeties that they can address in the third round, then maybe that's where they go. So, I mean, like a lot of they left themselves in the kind of like best player available. I just saw a mock draft that had the Rams picking Greedy Williams, the cornerback out of LSU, at 31. So if for some reason a player of Greedy Williams' caliber slides down to 31, you don't want to pass that up. Even though right now this year you don't have a pressing need for cornerback because you have Talib and Peters, but the following year, most likely Talib will be gone, and it might give you flexibility if Peters has a down year and you don't want to re-sign him, then you have your starting cornerback of the future in Greedy Williams. So there are going to be situations like that where guys just kind of fall into their lap. So the needs are going to be different, but obviously defensive line, like a big space-eating, run-eating tackle would be great. Edge, even though they have two guys in Fowler and Matthews, who knows after this year. So Edge is going to be concerned. Inside linebacker, they could always upgrade there. Safety, cornerback for sure, and then center/guard. So those are really like the areas of need, and they need to build depth. So this draft is going to be key for building depth for injury and for when guys leave next year. So starting it off now, this is just going to be the first of many. I'm going to get more in depth kind of as we get closer to the draft and some things shake out, but this is what I have so far. I'm going to do 3, maybe 4 per position that I just mentioned, and I'm going to start at the offensive line. So there were 2 offensive tackles at the Senior Bowl that they met with. And right now, offensive tackle isn't really a need because we've got Whitworth and Havenstein. Noteboom is there. Supposedly the heir apparent, but maybe Noteboom plays left guard where Saffold was, and they're like, wow, Roger Saffold started out as a tackle. He was in the same draft as quarterback who always got injured, blew a knee, Sam Bradford, and he bounced around at tackle and ended up at guard, and look at him now. So I mean, what if Noteboom is the guard going into next year, and they need a tackle? So a couple guys that they found was, well, Andre Dillard most likely will be off the board. He's a tackle at Washington State, so we can kind of cross him off the list, but he's the guy they met with at the Senior Bowl. Another guy that I really like is Dalton Risner from Kansas State, and he is just seems like a great locker room guy, but also a beast. So that could be, I mean, if you had Risner and Noteboom locking down the left side for years to come, that would be, and he's a projected second rounder. So that's why I'm saying a lot of these guys are second rounders. So that's why you want to kind of accumulate as many second rounders as you can. Erik McCoy, center out of Texas A&M. Now, he's kind of moving up the draft boards, and he's one of the best, if not the best, centers in this draft. That's a position of need, and if the Rams decide, man, he's like a 10-year starter, potential All-Pro at center, and Brian Allen is serviceable, maybe they go with Erik McCoy. And now they brought him in for a personal visit, so he didn't play at the Senior Bowl, kind of like Dillard and Risner did. But Erik McCoy, another guy to keep your eye on as the draft approaches on the offensive line. Now, if moving to the defensive side, and you go to the defensive line, there's a lot of guys that are flashy, but because they're probably juniors or they're coming off injury, they weren't listed in meetings that the Rams had. So, but here are the guys that they did meet with. Now, Kingsley Keke, it's Keke. I don't know how you pronounce that. He was at Texas A&M. They met with him at the Senior Bowl. He's a projected second rounder. Colin Saunders, Colin Saunders from Western Illinois. He's also another Senior Bowl meeting guy played at the Senior Bowl and they met with. And Renell Wren, another Senior Bowl guy. He went to ASU. So, and then Jerry Tillery of Notre Dame. I'm sure you guys have heard of him. They met with him at the Combine. All of those guys projected second rounders. So I wouldn't be surprised if they took one of those guys. And if they didn't, it's because like Dexter Lawrence or Jeffrey Simmons, or if those guys, Dexter Lawrence from Clemson or Simmons of Mississippi State, who was injured towards ACL, otherwise he'd probably be like a top 15 pick. Maybe they roll the dice on one of those guys. So, but those other guys from the Senior Bowl and the Combine that they met with, I think there's going to be a lot of action on those guys in the second round, and the Rams most likely could get one of them. And there's only one or two edge guys that I really am talking about now. One is Jachai Polite from Florida. His stock is sinking. He used to be a surefire first rounder. Now he could even fall potentially to the third round. He's an edge rusher out of Florida. So that's a guy to keep your eye on. They met with him at the Combine. Another guy that they didn't meet with yet is Jaylen Ferguson, and he's a projected third rounder, but I think, and he set the record for all-time sacks in college football. I think he went to Louisiana Tech. So not like a big school, but he's a beast coming off the edge. Wouldn't be surprised to see him, but I don't see anything on the tracker in terms of an official meeting that he had with the Rams. Now, the Rams are taking tons of meetings with safeties right now. It's kind of off the hook. Right now is the safeties meeting time, and they will take a safety in this draft. They will take a safety towards the top of this draft. So that's why they need, like I said, to accumulate as many high round picks as they can. And I don't know how they're going to do that, but that's what they need to do, because there were two safeties at the Senior Bowl that they met with: Nassir Adderly out of Delaware and Will Harris out of Boston College. So Nassir Adderly, there's a lot of hype around him, a lot of buzz around him. He's projected to be a second round pick. notice a theme, a lot of projected second round picks here. That's why we need to load up in the second round. That's why Marcus Peters better be freaking worth it, because we spent a second rounder on him. And then 3 guys that were not at the Senior Bowl, but they did bring in for, or that they met with, brought in for meetings. Darnell Savage out of Maryland, Juan Thornhill out of UVA, Virginia, and Jonathan Abram from Mississippi State. So the Rams will most likely get one of those 5 guys. Book it. And then last but not least, cornerback. So 3 guys that were at the Senior Bowl that they met with. Mark Fields out of Clemson, Iman Marshall out of USC, and Rock Ya-Sin out of Temple. Now, Rock Ya-Sin, that guy is kind of a borderline first, second rounder, so that'd be a great, I mean, Rock Ya-Sin is pretty much money in the bank first, second round. So, once again, first, second round guy. Mark Fields, they met with a couple of times, which means that they have a lot of interest in him. But those are, just generally speaking, some names to keep in mind as the draft approaches. The Rams will bring more guys in for visits. And I'm going to put a link in the description of this video to the Downtown Rams webpage. That is the tracker. It's the free agent meeting tracker, the draft prospect meeting tracker for the Rams. So you can kind of keep an eye on that. But if, like I said, this is the formula. If they played in the Senior Bowl and the Rams met with them, those guys are going to kind of bubble to the top of who the Rams end up taking. So I want to say, if you go back to my, like, the first videos I ever did where they were around the draft last year, I predicted Obo, Kaiser, Denby, Lawler, might have been another guy, but I predicted at least 4 guys that the Rams would take last year in the draft, based on this formula. But this will get a little more fine-tuned as we get closer. So like I said, those are the names. I'll even maybe write those in the description just so that you guys can kind of see that instead of having to watch this multiple times to remember who the names were, because I know you guys love to watch these shows multiple times, and I do appreciate it. But anyways, let me know in the comments who you think the Rams are going to take, or what you think their draft strategy would be. Like I said, I would love to see them trade out of the first, trade a couple other picks or whatever to get a couple picks in the second round, because like I said, most of these guys, that's where they go in second round. So the Rams are going to be building for depth this year and starters going into the following year. And also, if you haven't seen Behind the Grind on Facebook, get on it. They're 2 episodes deep for this year. When they went over the Super Bowl, kind of rehashed that. I had to scrub forward a little bit on that, but it's a lot of good stuff on there. Behind the Grind on Facebook. So yeah, anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. If you want to watch some older videos, you can do so up there. And yeah, like I said, draft is less than a month away. Let me know what you think, who you like, what you think the Rams should do. And until next time, guys, go Rams.